and welcome to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. I'm Megan Shaw and here are your top stories on Thursday the 8th of January. All aboard as Kent calls for Eurostar return on the 30th anniversary for Ashford International.
We have all of the pieces of the puzzle that are here in this room today that can put Ashford back on the international rail map.
Protect our playgrounds. Sevenoaks Mayor urges for an end to vandalism of a children's park.
It's about half a dozen times now since September. Somebody has removed the outside fencing.
And from Kiev to Kent, the Big Cat Sanctuary in Smarden aims to raise £100,000 to save lynx from Ukraine.
This sort of rescue, where you do not know what could happen, that the stakes are much higher, as it is a war zone.
But first, our top story, bring back international rail. That's the call from politicians from all parties on the anniversary of continental services coming to Ashford. Eurostar ceased operating in Kent during the pandemic, saying it had no plans to reopen its stations. But as our leaders cut the cake to celebrate 30 years of Ashford International, our local democracy reporter Ollie Leader has been asking what it will take for the government to go full steam ahead on helping alternative operators.
It was an unusual birthday party for Ashford International, with no international trains actually stopping by for the celebrations. International services have not stopped in Kent since 2020 during the pandemic. This 30th anniversary event behind me is designed to build support amongst business leaders and politicians to try and bring those services back for good.
We have representatives from every part of Kent. We've got representatives from government. We've got representatives from the operators. We have all of the pieces of the puzzle that are here in this room today that can put Ashford back on the international rail map.
One group in attendance is Virgin, who now have the depot space needed to launch their own international services in the future. Their representatives didn't want to speak to us at the event, but they have previously said they're open to services stopping in the county if Ashford or Ebbsfleet International reopened, something that would require the help of the government and other partners to actually happen.
Following a Brexit, we have to have a border checks, so there need to be a working with French government. So that's the work we need from the government. Money, yes. Treasury, I had a conversation with Chancellor, so there's a commitment from the Treasury as well. We may need some investment here, so that's what the commitment is, and the government is fully committed to remove any barriers.
More than 82,000 people have called for the return of services, with those trying to bring services back saying it could inject millions of pounds into the local economy.
There is very significant demand. Our own studies show that there is a prospect of high-speed rail tripling between now and 2040. The other thing is, of course, we have the capacity available on the high-speed line. That capacity is available now. There's 50% of the line which is available.
Eurostar told us that their Kent stations will remain closed, but confidence appears to be building that international rail could soon be back on track for Kent. Ollie Leader in Ashford.
And a Rochester man has pleaded guilty to stabbing a British Army officer in 2024 when appearing at Maidstone Crown Court earlier today. Anthony Easton was charged with attempted murder soon after the attack of Lieutenant Colonel Mark Teaton near Brompton Barracks on July 23, 2024. Mr Teaton was hospitalised after the attack and was discharged 4 weeks later. He will remain in the high-security psychiatric hospital Broadmoor until his sentencing in February. And shocking CCTV footage has captured the moments after a camper van was set alight in Sittingbourne, just an arm's length away from a sleeping family's home. The incident, which took place in the early hours of Monday morning, prompted a major emergency response, with firefighters and police both called to the scene. Senior Joe Crossley reports.
This is the scene of a camper van fire, which is believed to have been started deliberately just an arm's stretch away from a flat where a young family was sleeping. In the footage, firefighters can be seen battling the blaze in Litmus House in Sittingbourne around midnight on Monday. Meanwhile, other footage from nearby Bristol Close captured a hooded person walking towards the apartment block minutes before the fire started. It appears to capture a man carrying a jerry can with gloves on. The person exits the footage, but just minutes later reappears, running in the opposite direction of the flats without the object in hand. The Volkswagen camper van was burnt out, and the owner, who spoke to Kent Online on condition of anonymity, says it is written off. The dad of one believes the fire was started deliberately because of the CCTV evidence, as well as a green jerry can being found amongst the wreckage. The police are investigating the alleged arson and are appealing for information.
Now, during the holidays, vandals damaged fencing from a children's play area in Sevenoaks on 2 occasions, leaving it exposed to damage and fouling. Over the last few months, this has happened half a dozen times. The Mayor has urged the vandals to stop, warning that such behaviour ruins the playground experience for the youngest children. Maisie Walker has the story.
Over Christmas and New Year, vandals removed fencing at a children's play area in Sevenoaks twice, leaving it vulnerable to fouling and damage. The Mayor of Sevenoaks is urging for an end to the repeated vandal attacks on a children's park. He says the antisocial behaviour is out of order and that he would much rather improve the facilities throughout Sevenoaks rather than rebuild them.
We looked at putting CCTV up, but there's no electricity within about 100 yards. We'd much rather spend our time improving what we've got rather than repairing damage. And it is really disappointing because, I mean, as mayor, I get to see all sorts of voluntary organisations in the town, and there are literally hundreds of people giving their time to help with activities for young people, to look after old people, to help keep us safe, to improve the town, and all those things. And then there are these people who just think it's fun to knock things down.
When I visited the park, it was clear where the fencing had been replaced, with damaged sections repaired using a different style. Over the holidays, the Town Council's Open Spaces team carried out repairs twice within 24 hours. But for a time, the play area's safety could not be guaranteed. A local resident who uses the park often says the behaviour is a real shame.
It's really disappointing and a real shame. It's a really nice park. I walk past it quite often. And yeah, I can't really understand why somebody would want to do that. I think that obviously it's really important that the council, the police, get to the bottom of what's going on.
A spokesperson for Kent Police said, Kent Police has been notified about fences being damaged at a play area in Buxthurst Lane in Sevenoaks. Local neighbourhood officers have increased patrols in the area. They are liaising with the council and have suggested crime prevention measures. Anyone with information is asked to contact police by making a report online. The Mayor is urging people to report any damage being done to the play areas, saying behaviour like this spoils things for the youngest children. After all, it's them who ultimately pay the price. Maisie Walker for KMTV, Sevenoaks.
And the government is reportedly set to water down planned businesses' rates for pubs after a major backlash, including here in Kent. Our reporter Naila Mohammed is in the studio with me now to tell us more. So, Naila, you've been reading up on this. Why has there been a U-turn?
So this is coming after intense pressure and backlash from pub landlords and other groups within the industry who are saying that the changes are pushing many pubs over the edge. There's this one landlord in Canterbury who owns 4 pubs, and he's saying he'll have to sell 13,000 pints a year just to stay afloat. His annual business rates are going to go up from £25,000 a year post-pandemic to now being 90,000 a year, which isn't sustainable for many pubs. And it's a story that is being echoed across the nation. And in protest, thousands of pubs have said, no, we're not allowing Labour MPs specifically into our pubs.
And so why would some pubs be worse off then than others?
So even though Chancellor Rachel Reeves has cut the business rate from 49p to 43p, the rateable values themselves have increased. And what this means is that landlords are now paying a smaller percentage, but on a much higher valuation, which is why many pubs feel like they're worse off at the moment.
I see, I see. And going forward, what could be in the future then here for pubs across the county?
So Treasury officials are actually expected very soon to announce changes in the way they're going to calculate the business rates. Some are saying that they're going to either edit the multiplier again, change it by cutting it again, or expanding the relief fund, which is currently around £4.3 billion. Many landlords are still extremely sceptical about this. They don't trust what Labour is saying. But the pressure is already telling across Kent itself. I mean, 2 pubs have already closed. You've got the Plough in New Romney and the Priory Hotel in Dover, who've already closed, because of these pressures in funding.
I see. Thank you so much, Neela, for bringing us that story. We'll keep you updated as more and more comes out there, so thank you. Well, it's time for a short break, but coming up we have plenty more to come. We'll be speaking to the Minister for Communities, that's Mietta Farnborough, about Pride in Place, and that's a government scheme to boost disadvantaged neighbourhoods, which is set to uplift Ramsgate. We'll also be hearing from a dad from Maidstone who is hoping to run 1,000 kilometres this year to raise money to help pay for his disabled daughter's physiotherapy. And also we'll be bringing you your weather forecast for the coming days across Kent, so hopefully you won't need your umbrellas this weekend. And we'll also have all of your latest sports headlines with Finn McDermott. All that and more after the break. We'll catch you then. and welcome back to Kent Tonight live here on KMTV. Now, Pride in Place, the government scheme to boost disadvantaged neighbourhoods, is set to uplift Ramsgate. Thanet was ranked the highest in Kent on the Index of Multiple Deprivation, with some areas of Ramsgate falling under the top 1% most deprived in the country. The coastal town will receive £20 million in investment over the next decade to be distributed across the community. And I spoke to Minister of Communities, Miatta Farnbuller, to learn more. Thank you so much for joining us, Miatta. So first of all, can you just tell us and our viewers at home, what is this Pride in Place funding?
So, look, it's a really simple idea in some of our most deprived communities across the country where communities have been held back. We haven't seen enough investment. We are putting $5 billion across the country, 20 million per place in about 245 places. For the community to invest in the things that they want. And this is the key part of this. The community's in charge. This is about shifting power outside of Whitehall and decision makers like myself, outside of the local authorities, and putting it in the hands of communities. So they can have a conversation about what they want to see change in their place. And then they have the agency, the power, the money to make that investment. And I think it's one of the most exciting things that we are doing. It is about fundamentally changing the relationship between government and the community and putting the community in the driving seat.
So this funding, does it move towards the council? The Thanet District Council receive that funding and it's split up that way? How is it that the community are able to split up this funding to decide what they need it most for?
Yeah, so the way that it's worked, so we set up a neighbourhood board, and my big, plea is for people to get involved. So, in areas that haven't set up a neighbourhood board, they should be reaching out to members of their community, whether it's the mom with 2 kids and a busy life, whether it's the teacher, whether it's the policeman. We want a big cross-section of people across the community that will be part of this board. The board then needs to speak more widely to the community. So, going into streets, going into estates, on the high street, having a conversation with the community, doing surveys to understand what really matters to the community. We will unlock the funding with no strings attached. So once the community says, look, these are the projects, the priorities, whether it is a youth centre, whether it's a pub that they want to keep open, whether it's some green space that they want to open up for people in the community, we will pass the money through. It will go through the local authority, but the local authority is holding it on behalf of that community group. And it's for that group to say, these are the things that we want invested in, and the money will flow into those priorities.
Absolutely. And when I was reading about this, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there are 75 towns across the country. So is there any kind of roadmap for the future? Like, of course, Ramsgate is quite deprived in Kent, but there are other areas like Dover or perhaps parts of Swale. Is there kind of a future potential that other areas of the county that could benefit from this funding might receive it?
Yeah, so we expanded it. So originally there were 75. We then expanded it with phase 2 so that we now have 244 communities across the country that are receiving this. But alongside that, what we're doing is in places that aren't getting the £20 million over 10 years, we're creating other ways for them to be able to take control and to revive their places. So one example is the community right to buy. We're putting through legislation at the moment, which means that if there is a local asset that the community really, really cares about and it's about to be sold off, the community is able to take that on. And we'll be looking to build a suite of kind of tools and powers that people can use to say, look, this is what really matters in our place and we want to invest in it.
This kind of scheme, as you said, does centre the community. You kind of give the funding to them and let they decide where's most important for them. So I was just wondering, why do you feel it's important that the community have some sort of say and authority there in what happens in their towns?
Because they know best. Ultimately, as a minister, I care about seeing change in places. I care that we've had 15 years where too many of our communities have been underinvested in, where people have suffered the consequences of austerity, where communities are under pressure. But I don't have the insights that someone that lives and is working in that community will have about the stuff that really matters to them and their children and their families. And for me, tapping into that priorities and say, look, if this is what really matters for you and you've had a big conversation with lots of you and you say, look, these are the top 3 or the top 5 things we care about, this is what we want to see change, of course you should be the decision maker. Of course you should be in the driving seat. And our job as government is to enable that. And that ethos, that way of working, that way of shifting the balance of power between government and people is what is at the heart of this programme. And I think it's one of the most exciting things that we are doing.
Minister, thank you so much for giving us your time. And a dad from Maidstone is aiming to complete a running challenge this year to help pay for his disabled daughter's physiotherapy. Christina Zhukovsky, who will be turning 3 later this month, has complex physical needs and requires intensive therapy alongside the limited support available through the NHS. To help fund the therapy Christina needs, her dad Camille is aiming to run 1,000 kilometres over the course of the year to raise money for specialist physiotherapy and support her.
There has been progress, definitely. However, bearing in mind her condition, it's going to be probably a minimum of another sort of 15, 20 years of hard work to get her sort of, to the level where hopefully she still can live a independent life, or fairly independent life, if this will ever get to this stage. In 2026, I would like to do 1,000 kilometers in 1 year. And this also corresponds a little bit with hard work that Christina is doing, and the whole persistence that we all have to put into this, because it's not about sprinting. It's all about a marathon. It's all about those little things, little changes every day, the hard work that has to happen every single day.
And now, whether it's Chatham Town facing off against a former Premier League manager or an athletics club in Sittingbourne honouring their successful young track stars, there's plenty of sports news to keep up with. And here's Finn McDermott with your headlines.
First, let's kick off with news of Chatham Town facing Carlisle United, a National League side managed by former Man City boss Mark Hughes. Chat's midfielder Geordie Robbins says his gaffer, Kevin Hake, a Manchester United fan, is likely relishing the chance to come up against the Red Devils' former player, who also had stints at Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Chelsea and the Welsh national team. Now at Carlisle United, who were relegated from League Two last season, the match will see the Chats host at the Bourville Stadium in the 4th round of the FA Trophy. Next, Kent's wicketkeeper and batsman Harry Finch has put pen to paper on a new contract, committing his future to the county team until the end of the 2027 campaign. Finch has chalked up 98 club appearances across all formats alongside more than 3,500 runs with 5 centuries, and was even named the Men's Player of the Year for the side in 2024. He certainly had an odd start to life with Kent, debuting in 2021 as part of a makeshift squad due to most of the team having to self-isolate because of the COVID pandemic. Fans will likely be pleased to see the versatile batter, who's often credited as a strong outfielder by coaches, commit. But other players like Zach Crawley, Fred Clarson and Michael Cohen are still out of contract, with Kent also yet to confirm if captain Daniel Bell-Drummond will commit to staying. Now over to ice hockey, where the Invicta Dynamos suffered a loss at home despite having plenty of chances against Swindon Wildcats' second team. The Moes have been hit heavily by multiple suspensions dished out after a bench clearance saw the players fighting against the Slough Jets just before Christmas. In total, they had 4 players serving bans, as well as Carl Lennon, forced to watch from the stands. But the Wildcats' netminder locked them out of the game entirely, letting in only the lone goal and tanking 50 shots. The Moes are away to Solent Devils on Saturday and will see only Connolly return from the ban, with Lillis, Winterbank and Stokes still out. And last for your sports news, but certainly not last across the finish line, Swale Combined Athletics Club celebrated a year of sprinting success at their presentation evening. Alfie Wallach and Harriet Smith kept their top honours at the annual awards evening, named as Male and Female Athlete of the Year for the 2nd year running. Smith is ranked as Kent's #1 discus players for under-17s and finished 7th in the National Championships last summer with a new personal best and a club record throw of 36 metres. Wallach won the national team gold medal with the Kent under-17 boys team and set club records in hurdles across multiple distances, high jump and pole vaults. That's all for this week's Sports Roundup.
And at least 2 people have been hospitalised after a series of incidents on a road in Ashford. Eyewitnesses say the collisions on Sir Henry Brackenbury Road, one of which was a 3-car pile-up, was caused by ice as a result of no gritters or salt boxes covering the road. A dog walker is also thought to have been hurt after an unrelated fall near the crash site. A fire service spokesperson has encouraged the public to take extra caution when driving in cold temperatures, to avoid sudden braking and to be wary of black ice. And a yellow weather warning has been issued for Kent's south coast, with Storm Gretty set to bring 70-mile-an-hour winds. The Met Office say that the seaside towns of Lydd, Folkestone and Dover could be hit with the gusts, which are likely to last until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. People living in those areas have been advised to stay aware of large waves, prepare for potential power cuts and travel disruptions. And a Met Office spokesperson has said that tonight will mark the strongest winds, with the 70-mile-an-hour winds mainly in exposed areas, with slower gusts of 50 to 68 miles per hour elsewhere. And now let's take a look at the weather. Tonight we'll have heavy rain all around, temps of 4 to 6 degrees, accompanied by a gentle breeze. Tomorrow morning the heavy rain continues, winds of 21 and 29 miles per hour pick up heading northwest. The Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning as parts of Kent may feel those strong winds from Storm Gretty into tomorrow morning, but impact expected to be minimal. And your outlook: 4 degrees on Saturday, 5 on Sunday, rainy on Monday, but 10 degrees, which is quite warm for January. And it's time for a quick break, but coming up we've got plenty more. We're revisiting our top story as our local democracy reporter asks what it would take for the government to commit to supporting alternative operators to the Eurostar, which ceased operating in Kent during the pandemic. And we'll also see the virtual dementia. We'll see you then. and welcome to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. I'm Megan Shaw and here are your top stories on Thursday the 8th of January. All aboard as Kent calls for Eurostar return on the 30th anniversary for Ashford International.
We have all of the pieces of the puzzle that are here in this room today that can put Ashford back on the international rail map.
Protect our playgrounds. Sevenoaks Mayor urges for an end to vandalism of a children's park.
It's about half a dozen times now since September. Somebody has removed the outside fencing.
And from Kiev to Kent, the Big Cat Sanctuary in Smarden aims to raise £100,000 to save lynx from Ukraine.
This sort of rescue, where you do not know what could happen, that the stakes are much higher, as it is a war zone.
And our top story tonight, bring back international rail. That's the call from politicians from all parties on the anniversary of continental services coming to Ashford. Eurostar ceased operating in Kent during the pandemic, saying it has no plans to reopen its stations. But as our leaders cut the cake to celebrate 30 years of Ashford International, our local democracy reporter Ollie Leader has been asking what it will take for the government to go full steam ahead on helping alternative operators.
It was an unusual birthday party for Ashford International, with no international trains actually stopping by for the celebrations. International services have not stopped in Kent since 2020 during the pandemic. This 30th anniversary event behind me is designed to build support amongst business leaders and politicians to try and bring those services back for good.
We have representatives from every part of Kent. We've got representatives from government. We've got representatives from the operators. We have all of the pieces of the puzzle that are here in this room today that can put Ashford back on the international rail map.
One group in attendance is Virgin, who now have the depot space needed to launch their own international services in the future. Their representatives didn't want to speak to us at the event, but they have previously said they're open to services stopping in the county if Ashford or Ebbsfleet International reopened, something that would require the help of the government and other partners to actually happen.
Following a Brexit, we have to have a border checks. So there need to be a working with French government. So that's the work we need from the government. Money, yes. Treasury, I had a conversation with Chancellor. So there's a commitment from the Treasury as well. We may need some investment here. So that's what the commitment is. And the government is fully committed to remove any barriers.
More than 82,000 people have called for the return of services, with those trying to bring services back saying it could inject millions of pounds into the local economy.
There is very significant demand. Our own studies show that there is a prospect of high-speed rail tripling between now and 2040. The other thing is, of course, we have the capacity available on the high-speed line. That capacity is available now. There's 50% of the line which is available.
Eurostar told us that their Kent stations will remain closed, but confidence appears to be building that international rail could soon be back on track for Kent. Ollie Leader in Ashford.
Now, carers, professionals and Carers First staff took part in a virtual dementia tour which came to Strood on Tuesday. With the use of sensory equipment such as spiked insoles, flashing lights, loud sounds and gloves, the experience was aimed at giving attendees a glimpse into the lives of those with diagnosed dementia. And a warning for the upcoming segment as it will contain flashing images. Our reporter Kristen Hawthorne went to Strood to speak to those involved and try the experience for herself.
I felt like I knew a lot about dementia, but this is a good eye-opener.
By partnering with Training to Care, charity Carers First have been able to bring the virtual dementia tour to Medway in an aim to help carers, professionals and staff better understand and support those with dementia.
This piece of training allows the carer and any professional that's working with someone who has dementia
to experience what it's like to have dementia and how it affects their senses. Quite often when people hear the word dementia, they think about memory loss, but what they don't necessarily consider are the sensory changes that happen, things like vision and sounds, being able to hold things with their hands, colour changes. So what this experience does, it allows, with some tools and with sights and sounds, to feel like you're having those same experiences that person's having. And what that will then enable professionals and also carers to understand is why people with dementia might have certain behaviours.
With dementia currently affecting more than 900,000 people in the UK alone, Carers First say that 1 in 3 people will become a carer at some point in their lives. This makes the virtual experience a stepping stone in raising awareness of the syndrome and its effects.
It was really amazing to understand what it is to be inside the shoes of somebody with dementia. So it's really a good eye-opener, really is amazing, really good. It was not what I expected at all.
Going through that experience, it's a real eye-opener. I mean, that feeling of not being able to see what you're doing, seeing where things are, and that noise, I mean, that constant noise must just be absolutely awful for the person going through it.
So I've been told by people who've already taken part in the tour that it's nothing like they expected it to be. So I thought I'd try it out for myself.
We had to put insoles in our feet that were spiky, so you kind of feel how they feel when they're walking. You had to put gloves on, glasses on, wear the headphones, and there was all kinds of stuff going on. Sirens in your ear.
Although the virtual experience looks just as strange as it feels, it gives a sneak peek into the lives of those with dementia, helping carers and staff better support each other and those that they care for. Kristen Hawthorne for KMTV in Strood.
Now, a Maidstone man is one of just 26 to receive a British Citizen Award, which recognises an individual's contributions to society. Chris Kendall founded the not-for-profit The Global Fire and Rescue Partnership to help with training and equipment for rope and rescue. He's been volunteering in Bosnia and Herzegovina since 2016 and in 2024 assisted the British Embassy to rescue those affected in a natural disaster over there. And he joined me earlier to tell me more. Are you able to tell us about the type of award that you've won? Because there are a few different ones, aren't there?
There are, yes. So I've been awarded the British Citizen Award for international achievement. So basically doing work abroad.
Absolutely. And can you tell us more about this, exactly why that you've received that award? You have a non-profit, I think, don't you?
I did, yes. So it started back in 2016. I did my first trip to Bosnia. I went with a registered charity. Saw that more could be done. I was contacted by a Bosnian and was asked if I could support them in a specialist subject. So I started a non-for-profit called Global Fire and Rescue Partnerships. And then I started raising donations of equipment and then travelling that to Bosnia and utilising that kit to train them in rope and water rescue.
Absolutely, and of course there are plenty of kind of areas around the world that do need volunteers. So I just personally wondered, why was it that Bosnia that you decided to volunteer in?
Options were very limited in 2016 for who I could volunteer with. Bosnia was the country that I got kind of offered the opportunity to travel to, and the Bosnian people and the country won it for me. They're such wonderful people, and I just built a real connection with the country itself, and it just grew from there.
So, Chris, can you tell me about what happened last year when you needed to organise a team of volunteers?
Yeah, so we were in Sarajevo on behalf of the British Embassy, delivering training, an ongoing UK commitment to the development of Bosnia and Herzegovina. When we became aware of a situation unfolding nearby, a significant landslide involving an entire village with unknown number of persons missing and in need of help. I always travel with a team of emergency service experts from different sectors. We've got police officers, firefighters, and specialist paramedics from London. And we offered our services to the Assistant Defence Attaché, Alan Talakic, from the British Embassy, and offered to deploy us as volunteers. We were all trained and experienced in urban search and rescue, so it seemed to make sense that they utilise our skills and experience to try and search for people.
Absolutely. And my final question for you is, how does it feel to be recognised? Is it something that you ever expected to happen to you?
To be honest, no. I think a majority of people in my with my previous experience in the fire and rescue service would say they don't do this for recognition, and we don't. I never expected it to happen, never really thought or wanted it to happen. It took me by surprise. I was obviously very appreciative to being nominated in the first place, but also came with an element of disappointment and sadness that the rest of the team who make this happen don't get the same level of recognition or award that I've been lucky enough to be given.
Very well deserved, Chris. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. It was lovely to meet you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, it's time for a quick break, but coming up, we hear more from the Big Cat Sanctuary, which is aiming to save a lynx from Ukraine. All that and more after the break. We'll catch you then. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Now, the Big Cat Sanctuary in Smarden are no stranger to helping their feline friends in foreign countries, and after the rescue of 5 lions from Ukraine, they've set their sights on saving a lynx from Kiev. Ursa was originally kept as a pet before being found, and the sanctuary are hoping to raise £100,000 to bring her to Kent and build her a new home forever. Finn McDermott went down to the rescue centre to find out more.
After saving 5 lions from Ukraine, the Big Cat Sanctuary have set their sights on another big rescue, but this time for a much smaller cat. Ursa is a female Eurasian lynx found by Wild Animal Rescue in Kiev, and the sanctuary are fundraising for £100,000 towards her rescue.
Yeah, Ursa's background's really sad. She was originally discovered as an illegal pet in Ukraine, and then she was taken after being, confiscated from the owner to Natalia at Wild Animal Rescue as a temporary holding space. Now, with that, she had an infection in her stomach. She was riddled with parasites. She was malnourished, underdeveloped, far smaller than a lynx her age should be. She didn't have the right nutrients or care or diet. She'd never been outside before as well, and she still hasn't. So that's why it's pretty urgent, not only because she's not in the right environment, but also bombs are falling all around her space.
The money would go towards Ursa's transport to Kent, as well as any emergency care she might need, with any extra funds also going towards her long-term care. Now, the Big Cat Sanctuary are mainly known for their big animal rescues, whether it's the 5 Ukrainian lions or tigers like Luca here. But they also have smaller cats as well. Just like Ursa, they have Reese, the Eurasian lynx, as well as the Asiatic golden cat of Frank. But what are the differences when caring for a big cat versus a smaller one?
Most of the big guys are quite hardy, whereas smaller animals, smaller cats can be much more sensitive, more shy. So as keepers, we'll just have to be quite aware of our volume when we're talking, when we're working around the unit, our body language around her, making sure it's just nice and soft, nice and slow, nice and quiet to help her settle as best she can. So where she'll be moving into, our small cat rescue centre has been an enclosure on site for many years. We're just doing some adjustments with the amount of planting, adding in extra CCTV. It's historically housed leopards and pumas, so actually it's a nice 3D space for a lynx to use.
Behind the scenes, a lot of work goes into finding, transporting and caring for these animals. So for those at the sanctuary, when they rescued the 5 lions, it was a moment that was very emotional, but really showed the importance of what they do.
I just remember bursting into tears, giving a lot of the team a big hug. It was really emotional. It is an emotional roller coaster, and especially with this sort of rescue where you do not know what could happen. That the stakes are much higher, as it is a war zone.
Once Ursa arrives in Kent, she'll be housed with Blob, the resident bobcat, where the sanctuary will give her more medical care and a better life in her new forever home. Finn McDermott for KMTV in Smarden.
And next, a new 24-hour adult gaming centre has been given the green light in Cliftonville, but not everyone in the community appears up to play. Kane's Amusements on North Down Road has been granted a licence to open 24 hours a day on what has been dubbed one of the world's coolest streets. However, neighbours have raised concerns that the centre could increase the pre-existing antisocial behaviour there. But the Kane's operations manager, Bill Kane, defended the proposal, saying the centre would offer slot machines akin to what you'd see in pubs, just without the alcohol. And Garage Nation's Mitchell and Bennett has been an icon for the past 15 years in Maidstone's late-night music scene, but now he's branching into mealtimes. The nightclub promoter, who is a familiar face at venues like Dusk to Dawn, Bowling and Sauce Bar, will be launching a Caribbean takeaway restaurant in the town. Jerky Workies will serve up authentic homestyle Caribbean food prepared by a traditional Jamaican chef. Bennett told our reporter he wants the business to become a long-term part of Maidstone, adding that he wants to contribute positively to the community there. And with the new year just begun, it's an opportunity to look back on classics and look forward toward the future. Ahead of a new episode of Film Club today, we're joined by the presenter, Chris Deasy, to discuss all things film. So, Chris, welcome again.
Thank you.
And, you know, we're going to have a New Year's theme here. So I would say this is a time for new beginnings, journeys and transformations. And we've picked 3 films that we feel embody these kind of values here. But before we reveal our picks, we just want to know, are there any standout films you think embody these kind of ideas? And what would you recommend for a New Year's period watch?
Do you know, I remember last year we were talking about When Harry Met Sally, because it's right on that cusp, Christmas, New Year, and that sense of all the possibilities, what's going to happen. And so many films are predicated on that in every genre, rom-coms, even like, you know, Back to the Future. Groundhog Day is a good example. The idea of being, it's a metaphor, isn't it? Being stuck in time, but maybe we finally get out and start again. And that's sort of really what the New Year spirit is all about.
Absolutely. And are you ready for our film pick? So for new beginnings, we've gone for Dead Poets Society. So obviously that's a coming-of-age story of pupils from an elite boarding school. They're spurred into action by their unorthodox English teacher. So what do you think about this film and any of the messages that we could take away from it?
There's something so inspiring about this because so many of us can relate to those school teachers who perhaps were saying, do things the correct way, follow tradition, and you're thinking, oh, you know, we're doing this because we have to. There's no creativity in this. And then the spark, the teacher, played by Robin Williams, who effectively says, Mr. Keating, and he says, hang on, there's a new way of doing things. And suddenly these boys, who in many cases are told by their fathers, you know, you want to make lots of money when you're older, play it safe, you know, don't do anything deviant, don't do anything that goes against the ethos of the school. And then suddenly, of course, he's teaching them poetry and they become better people for it, but there's a price to be paid. So it's new beginnings, but it's almost like this is set in the 1950s and you almost felt that it was sort of 30 or 40 years behind the time. So it's almost like today we recognise there's a Mr. Keating in every school, but back then he really was the kind of the person who didn't fit. And as a result, I think the boys sort of found that they were really conflicted by all the different scenarios presented to them.
Absolutely, this is definitely a film I really loved when I was a teenager. And for our next theme, obviously we've got Journey. So this one, it was recently released, its 3rd film in theatres, obviously, that's Avatar there. And it obviously kind of, I don't know, revolutionised, I suppose, the industry starting back in 2009. So there's no secret as to why Pandora is so captivating. So what was your reaction when the original first released?
Well, I remember this and I was totally blown away because James Cameron, who made this, had done Titanic, he did the Terminator films, True Lies. Every film he'd made, always Alien as well, Aliens, it always felt that he was doing something with the use of technology that went further than anything before had been able to produce. Now, the interesting thing is that, of course, he's now made 3 of these in a row. So it's almost as though he's just turned in his most recent years, the last 15 years, into making Avatar films. So it's interesting, he's almost like stuck in that groove. So it would be interesting to see if he then goes into some other sort of type of filmmaking. But this also felt, it was that time in 2009 when it was clearly a computer-generated image, but they looked and felt like characters, and that was integrated into the story with the notion of avatars. So you could see almost this seamless interaction between real world human and animated cells. And of course the technology has just got better for the 2 sequels that have followed.
Absolutely, and this film came out originally in 2009. I was a child then, but watching back, I still feel like it feels quite modern, it feels quite new. So how would you say it's kept that kind of magic about it?
I think the reason it has worked is because it sort of gets to the very heart, as do all good fairy tales really, about what is it to be human, because it's almost the human in interaction with something that is stopping the humanity from coming forward. And it's the ecological themes as well that feel now more prescient even than they did 15 years ago in terms of what is the future for our planet.
Absolutely, and moving on to our next theme there, we've got transformation. So we've gone for Robin Hood. He begins a noble and ends a heroic outlaw. So many films have depicted this English folklore character over the years. So which one, personally, do you enjoy the best?
I have to say Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Kevin Costner. It is so wonderfully preposterous. I love the idea that they land in England, presumably the coast of Dover, and then, you know, sort of half an hour later, they're in Nottingham. And of course, it would have taken a bit longer in those days. But it is such a good sort of, you know, the sort of thing that Hollywood used to do in its day. And it was just a really good epic battle, really, with a story to undergird it. But of course, the new film that's due out later this year, the new Robin Hood iteration, The Death of Robin Hood, is effectively taking issue with the whole mythology. And it's also got Hugh Jackman, who, of course, is in the cinemas at the moment with the Neil Diamond film. I can't wait to see him in this. But it's a real darker version. And I think, from what I saw in the trailer earlier...
Which is playing right now.
Wow. Well, it sounded a bit... it made me think of Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven. It's almost like somebody looking back on their life and thinking, did I do the right thing? Because... what is the source material for this? You think of like Frankenstein, there's a clear Mary Shelley. You could have lots of different adaptations of that story, but there's always a source. But here it's based around a variety of folklore and legends, which means it's a more supple, more flexible story that can be told. But this one, I think, is going to be going far more introspectively. I mean, Kevin Costner was brilliant, but it wasn't the most psychologically nuanced kind of depiction. And that's not a criticism, but this film clearly is going to be going into far darker territory. It feels like it really could go where other Robin Hood stories have not dared to go.
Absolutely, and very quickly, we've not got too much time left, but looking ahead to 2026, like you've just done there, what's one of your favourite releases that will come out this year?
Do you know, I'm looking forward to Michael, the film about Michael Jackson, played actually by his nephew, Jermaine Jackson's son. I think that's due out on the 24th of April this year. The video looks spectacular. Devil Wears Prada 2 is coming out a week later on the 1st